Hey guys, it's Crystal. I wanted to come back and do a labor and delivery video since I did give birth to my son on January 9th. As some of you may know, if you watched my last pregnancy update video, that I needed to be induced. It was planned. They induced me at 37 weeks. So I went in on January 8th to start that whole process, and I want to talk a little bit about everything that I've gone through with that. Some of it might be a little emotional for me. I'm going to try to hold it together because it was a very emotional situation going on. Like it was crazy for me. So on the 8th, I was supposed to go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital at 8:30 p.m. to check in. And when I checked in, then the nurse came, she took me to a room, got me all set up, took vitals, did admission paperwork and everything. So I was in a room. It was a nice room. It was a private room. And she had everything set up for me, and then she was walking me through how the whole process was going to work, how the doctor was going to come in, was going to check me, and pretty much how everything was supposed to flow from there. So she got me set up and everything. So then the doctor came in. The doctor came in to check to see if I was dilated at all. She was like, I don't expect you to be dilated much at all because you're 37 weeks. Your body's not really ready. You're not, in labor. We're gonna have to put you into labor. So she checked me. That was so painful, like so painful. And I'm sure she does it all the time, but she did not have a gentle touch at all. And I was like, get this lady away from me. So that hurt. I don't remember how far I was. I don't think she's, might have been a centimeter. I don't remember, but I have notes too, because I forget a lot of stuff. But so she gave me some options on what to do to start to thin out my cervix. So I think she gave me 3 options, but I can't remember all 3. There was one, it was like a 12-hour option. It was like, she said it was like a tampon type thing. They put it in there and they check it after 12 hours, but she was like, 12 hours might be a long time. They had another one that was, they put like a dissolvable pill in there. It was called Cytotec. They put that in there, let that dissolve, and it was supposed to thin it out, and then they checked it after 4 hours, and then if that doesn't work, then they check again. And I think there's another one, I don't know if it was an oral option that I was supposed to take. I don't remember, but I opted for the 4-hour one. So she came, she put that in, and then we waited 4 hours for them to come back and recheck to see if I was dilated. So when they came back after 4 hours, I was dilated to 3 centimeters. She was like, well, that's really good. So she was like, I think now we'll start the Pitocin, which is supposed to get, your contractions to start. So pretty much from the moment they started that, I started feeling the contractions. They weren't crazy at first, but they were coming like every 5 minutes, and I could feel it was just a little bit. They come in and they check you, they check your vitals, they check all types of stuff. So it's like, of course I didn't expect it to be a vacation, but you will not get any sleep, because I was having the non-stress tests for so long. I had those twice a week, and then it turned into 3 times a week up until I got induced. So they put these straps on me, and they put these little monitors on me to check for him, his heart rate and his movement, to make sure his heart rate's not dropping or going up too high or anything like that. So they're monitoring his heart rate and his movement. So those had to stay still. They're not stationary. They just plop them on, and they take these little teeny tiny strips and attach them to it so they will move if you move. So I couldn't roll over. I had to lay there. So it was so uncomfortable. I couldn't really get any sleep. The doctor was coming in, or the nurse was coming in every hour to 2 hours, checking, you know, my vitals and everything. And I'm just like, oh my God. And she had to keep readjusting his monitor because it kept moving. And then I had an IV, so I had to pee a lot. So she had to come unhook all of the things and then help me to the bathroom. And it was this one time where it was like in the middle of the night, whatever. I kept calling the nurse, kept calling for the nurse. Like, I need to pee, like, so bad. And I'm like, I don't know how to unhook these things. Like, I'm gonna pee on myself. Like, I kept pressing, like, hurry up. Like, that IV fluid will run through you and make you have to pee like crazy. And that was the worst part about it, because I had to keep getting up, having to go pee, but I had to call her. So I'm like, oh my God. So it was completely uncomfortable. But hey, it's part of the process. So when they were checking on him, once my contractions started to get stronger, they realized that once my body started to contract, his heart rate would drop. And that was a real concern for them. They said he's not handling the contractions very well. And they're like, if your baby doesn't handle the contractions very well, especially at this early of stage, he's not going to go through labor very well at all. So from jump, they were pretty much saying you will have to have a C-section probably, you know, if this keeps up, if he can't handle the contractions. We don't want to put your baby in any distress. We don't want you to be in any distress. So we might just have to go in and take him out, because your body, you're just going to contract even more and even harder. So they were trying not to, you know, they were trying not to do that. Of course, they want to try to do it naturally. So they were giving me oxygen all the time. So I had this oxygen mask on me. It's like I was getting no sleep. I was so uncomfortable. Like, literally, I got no sleep when I was in the hospital. So they kept giving me oxygen, and then they would take it off, and then it would happen again. So then they would put it back on. So it was just this cycle over and over again. So they came in and did another cervical check on me. And I think she was trying to get him to start moving a little bit more. So they checked to see if how far I was dilated, and trying to get him to move. So she said she was going to do a scalp massage. She's going to like reach up in there and start rubbing on his scalp. That was so painful. Like, oh my God, that was so painful. I was just like, oh my God. And she was doing it for like 30 to 40 seconds. I'm like, this is horrible. Like, can you please leave me alone? And at that point I was about 4 centimeters dilated. And I think that was after the next 4 hours. So she was like, you know, you only dilated another, you know, that's with the stuff they put in there, and with the Pitocin that has been going on for another 4 hours. And she was like, you only dilated 1 more centimeter. So there was another threat of C-section, and I'm like, oh my God. So not too far after that, then we have these anesthesiologists come in, and they're telling me about, you know, we heard from the doctors about you, what's been going on, and how the baby's not handling the contractions very well. And they said you probably will have to have a C-section. So right now you don't have an epidural, but we can put it in for you, and if we have to rush you to the operating room, it'll all be ready and set to go. And they were pretty much like, this is what you're going to need to do, because from the looks of it, you're going to have a C-section. So it's like, pretty much, let's do it. And I'm like, oh my God, didn't want to have an epidural. I'm like, if I had to, I had to. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I finally gave in. That part was like really, really emotional for me, because I really didn't want to have it. So I'm like, fine, let's do it. So they had me set up, bend over. I'm like sit on the edge of the bed. Like my husband sat in front of me. I leaned over to him and, you know, like hunch over, push your back out, and they put the freaking needle in my back. Put it in there. So they were trying to, what did they say? Feed like the catheter for it in there. That's what it's called. They're trying to do that, and it would not go in. So they had to redo the epidural. That's nice and fun. So they went a little bit lower and they tried to redo it there. So they did it there. They fed the catheter through it and it went through that time. So I'm like, whatever, fine, we're over with, cool. So they do that, then they start feeding some of the medicine through it, and I'm like, okay, this is cool, this is cool. I'm not feeling much. So the lady, she would come in, I think she was like the anesthesiologist nurse. I need to sneeze. So she comes in and she's trying to check to see, so she would take like an alcohol wipe and she'd rub it up here. You know, alcohol's cold, let me put it on. She took alcohol wipe, she put it up here, she's like, it's cold. And then she's like, so I'm gonna put it down below, like on your thigh or on your belly, you know, and she tried to see if I can feel it down there. And she's like, if it still feels as cold as it does up here, then it's not working. So she tried it up here, then she tried it down there, and then it didn't feel cold. So I was like, okay, so I'm guessing it's working. Cool. So let me go back to my notes here. But the thing that eventually wore off. So I don't know what the hell happened, because they were saying when I first got it and I started feeling it, I felt it on one side and they were like, well, let's roll you over to the other side to try to get it to, you know, administer all through the body. So I'm like, okay, fine. Roll me over to the other side, and then I finally felt it everywhere, and I'm like, cool. So I'm like, I wasn't feeling the contractions, I wasn't feeling anything. And the good thing was they got my my catheter done so that I could pee in the bag. They got that done and I really didn't feel that. And then they did another cervical check. A different doctor did this one, but I didn't feel that one at all. Because I had the epidural. But eventually that completely wore off and I felt everything. So I'm like, I'm feeling everything. So the nurse comes, the anesthesia nurse, she comes back in. She's like, well, let me give you some more. So she gives me some more. And all I feel it is in my left leg. That's all I feel. Only my left leg goes completely numb. That's all I feel. She's like, all right, well, let's roll you over again. See if we can get it over to the right side. We do that. Nothing. So I guess eventually they kept trying to, you know, figure out we're going to keep rolling you, keep rotating you and trying to give you more. And I'm only feeling it in my leg. Like I'm feeling everything in my abdomen. And I'm like, it was painful. Like, and a lot of people say they can't describe contractions and labor pains. I mean, the best thing I can think of to describe it was like somebody's literally taking your body and like wringing you out. Like that's literally what it feels like. So I'm like, I'm feeling everything. I'm like, oh my God. So they were like, you know, at this point your epidural's not working. I'm like, what you mean? So they're like, we're gonna have to do another epidural. Mind you, this is my third epidural now for somebody that didn't want one anyway. So I'm like super freaking emotional. I'm like, it was a mess. So like my whole family was there at that time. Like his family was there, my family was there, my friends were there, or whatever. So they're like, all right, everybody, we need y'all to leave the room. We're gonna do this epidural again. Okay. Doing the freaking epidural again, and it was, that one was horrible. Like not the pain in the back, 'cause they numb it in the back, so that pain wasn't so bad. It was the contractions and having to be in that position, and those contractions were horrible. So again, they put my husband in front of me. I had to lean over. Like I literally almost passed out. Like if he was not there, I would have completely fallen on the floor. Like those contractions were so bad, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm crying all over the place. I have no idea why this hospital room didn't have tissues. They did not have tissues. Like the nurse, she's over here like trying to be the sweetest thing in the world. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And trying to find stuff to get me to wipe my face. I'm like, everything is just running. Like I'm crying like crazy. And so they do that epidural. Third epidural. So after they get that done and everything, she's like, you know, the doctor comes in and she's like, I'm gonna check you, to see how far you're dilated at this point. So she checks me. I feel that one again, because only my left leg is numb at this time. It's the only thing that it's working on. I have no idea why. So she checks me again and she's like, your contractions are so bad and you're in so much pain because you are in labor right now. She said, you are 10 centimeters dilated. It's time to push. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it's time to push. Like, nurses are all over the place. I don't even know why all these nurses were in there in the first place, but there were like so many nurses in there. The anesthesiologists were still in, they're leaving. My nurse was in there. Like, everybody's all over the place, and they're like, all right, scoot down, put your leg up. And they told my husband, they was like, grab this leg. One nurse got this leg. I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, I am so not ready. I'm like, this freaking third epidural hasn't even kicked in yet. Like, it's literally been maybe 5 minutes since I had that last epidural. And it takes about 15 minutes for it to kick in. I'm like, so it hasn't kicked in. So I'm feeling everything. Fun times. So, let me see. So she's like, you know, pretty much get ready to push. So they got me all in position and she's like, you know, I'm gonna need you to push down as hard as you can, like you're having a bowel movement, like just as hard as you can. So I'm just like pushing I'm just as hard as I can. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I'm nervous. I don't know what's happening. So I'm just pushing as hard as I can. She was like, that's good, that's good. She was like, deep breath and push, and deep breath and push. So after like only 3 pushes, she was like, look at all that hair. And I'm like, you can see the head already? I'm like, oh my gosh. She was like, he's right here. Like, push, like keep pushing. So she's like taking a deep breath and just push harder and harder. So I'm like, I'm pushing. And she's like, keep going. She's like, he's coming. So she's like, just keep pushing. She just kept trying to get me to push and push long and hard. So I'm pushing as hard and long as I can. And literally what I pushed maybe 10 to 15 times and he was out. And I'm like, oh my God. So then the nurse, what scared me, one, he cried for a second. Like maybe 3 seconds. He cried for like 3 seconds and then stopped. And I'm like, what the heck? And then the nurse, I guess she calls out to someone on like some intercom and she's like, you know, room such and such. It's a girl, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's a girl. I'm looking at my husband and he's looking at me and I'm like, you down there? Like, what is a girl? I'm like freaking out. And then the nurse, she's like, it's a girl, right? They're like, it's a boy. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you guys are freaking me out. I'm like, I'm not ready for a girl. I was so freaked out. So then one of the nurses asked me, she's like, do you want skin to skin contact? We'll just put them right on you. I was like, no. And my husband is like, no. Because I'm like, I don't do good with blood and the bloody sticky babies. And I'm like, no. And then the nurse grabs the baby and throws him on me. And I'm like, oh my God. And like, thank goodness he wasn't bloody or anything. He was sticky, covered in all that sticky stuff, whatever it was. But I'm like, it was completely fine. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, like, and this all happened so freaking fast. Like literally, like I had my epidural and he was out within 10 minutes. After that, they told me, you know, they had to get the placenta out, do all that stuff. They said I didn't tear or anything. He's small. Sorry, my camera stopped recording. And if you hear any grunting in the background, that's my son, little gassy self. But so it wasn't really hard for me to push because he was only 4 pounds 7 ounces when he was born. So there was no tearing, there was no episiotomy, there was none of that. So that was one good thing about having a small baby. But yeah, so he was born January 9th at 4:15. 4 pounds 7 ounces, 18 inches long. I'm looking at him right now, sorry. Yeah, so pretty much after that you have they said that, I don't know if I'm sure, I don't think every hospital does this, but they say for the first hour, they say that that's mommy baby time. So she said everybody's gonna leave, the nurse will leave. She said she'll come in if you need her, but that's gonna be you and the baby's time for whatever you want to do. So we had our hour together, and then sometime throughout that night or the next day, we had all different types of doctors come in. We had like the lactation specialist come in since I was trying to breastfeed. We had pediatricians come in. We had the doctor who wants to do circumcisions comes in. So we had all types of people in and out of there. So it's just like constant moving, constant. So he did pretty well. They had to check his blood sugar every, I forgot how often it was, but they wanted it to be above 40, and his was like right on the edge, and then there was a certain point where it went below. So they took him to the NICU for a few hours. So nothing major after that, even with him being premature. But yeah, he's done pretty well. I just want to share that story with you guys. Just if there's any mommies to be out there who are going to be induced or anything like that. The best thing that happened was that I didn't have to have a C-section, because that was a fear of mine. I didn't want to have one. And I didn't have to. So even with all the threats of having a C-section and all these people constantly coming in saying, oh, get ready for C-section, get ready for a C-section, we're going to prep you for a C-section, pretty much. It's like, and I didn't have to. So that was a blessing. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I do plan to have some more videos about life after, some postpartum videos, breastfeeding tips videos. Let me know if you guys want to know anything specifically down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.